Welcome to Elliot's PT podcast. I'm here to help you find your balance and live your best life guilt-free. I don't believe there is a one-size-fits-all approach for health and fitness. We're all different and we need to find out what works for us. I'm passionate about helping people make realistic, long-term lifestyle changes that they will stick to and they will take with them forever. I don't believe in crazy diets or short-term fixes. We all need to live and find a perfect balance in diet and exercise that suits our individual needs. I want to help you find your exercise mojo, feel great and achieve wonderful things. Here is Elliot's PT podcast by Renee Elliott.
Hello, and welcome back to Elliot's PT podcast. So today I am trying something new and I am doing my podcast from my treadmill. It's surprising, but sometimes I really do struggle to find time to fit exercise in myself. I spend so much time training everyone else. I still need to really think about prioritizing my time and how I spend it, finding some time to fit in some form of exercise. So I thought, well, instead of sitting down and recording a podcast, I will see how it works on the treadmill. Let's see how that goes today. If you hear a bit of a noise, it is the treadmill. So, and if it works, I'll be really chuffed because it just means you can, I try to be as active as I can and fit things in when I can, but sometimes it is a real juggle. The thing I always do that I see all the time is I have two kids at school. So when I go to school, I don't sit in my car and scroll on the phone. I get out and I go for a walk, and I might fit in 15 minutes before bell goes, because our school, like so many other schools, that, there's so much traffic or so hard to get a car park. You need to go sometimes to go a little bit earlier. So I go a little bit earlier, which means I get a park and then I go for a walk. So it's a great way to fit in some extra steps. If you are, on the school run, if you are going to school, try to get a little bit early. Don't just sit in your car and scroll through your phone. Go for a walk. People I might get 10 minutes in, but 10 minutes is better than nothing. Some days I get 20, but it's always something. Something is better than nothing. So today I want to talk about reflecting, okay? And reflecting is probably something that I find one of the most important components of your fitness journey. It is something that I ask everyone to do who is doing any of our online programs. But it's probably the thing that lots of people oversee or they don't do. And each week, if you were doing a program with us each week, I will ask you to reflect and to send it to me. I want you to send it to me for accountability and so that I can see what you're doing. But I also want you to have a look at it and see for yourself maybe where there is some holes and maybe what you can improve on. When we maybe ignore the obvious things, and if we leave it and we don't look at it, you could have picked something up a lot sooner than if we just ignored it and it got to a point where something gets really out of hand and you're like, and if you've got a specific goal in mind, that's what we want to be working towards. Reflecting, what do I mean by reflecting? So for me, reflecting is when, especially if you're wanting to, even I think I kind of always do a little bit of a reflection on a Sunday. Reflecting during my program, the reflecting is when you look back at the week that was. So you'll look back, come back to what was your goal? What were you looking to achieve? What are you looking to achieve long term or, for the duration of the program? Because anything that I do, it's not just short term, it's for long term. So you want to look at what you're wanting to achieve long term or what you're wanting to achieve for the duration of the program. What do you want to achieve? And are you still on track for that? Generally, you get action steps. So you've got these action steps and we know you need to hit these kind of each week. And if you are missing half of the action steps, then by the end of the 8 weeks or the 6 weeks or whatever, you're not going to be there. But we want to reflect each week. So then we can look at fixing it. And remember, the biggest thing is to notice these things. Notice it so then you can make a change. But what I see people doing is they avoid doing it because they think it will mean something about them. They think it will mean that they have failed or they're a failure. But these are the things that we need to learn. These are our lessons. So we reflect each week and we look at what worked well, what didn't work well? What could I improve on for the next week? And then you look and you make adaptations for the next week, and then you continue on. If you ignore this reflection part, we get to the next week, you might carry on the same way, but maybe there's this massive hole that you're missing in your journey that you need to be doing. And we don't want to get to week 6 before you realize it. That's why it's so important. And I find that people overlook it all the time because they don't want to spend the extra time, and it can take 10, 15 minutes, but even on a life basis, like I said, I spend time reflecting, meal prepping is massive for me. If I don't meal prep, my week doesn't run as smooth. So what worked well for me last week? I didn't have food prep. Well, I'm going to make sure that I got caught up with this, so I didn't have food prep. So, right now I'm going to do, so I work out a little plan in my head. So I'm constantly doing a little bit of a reflection. So I reflected on my week. So yesterday I reflected on my week. Last week, I felt really flustered. I felt like I got nothing done. I just felt like I couldn't catch up. So that was my week. There was somebody that works with us. She was sick. So I had to do extra things, but it meant that I didn't get anything else done. So I thought, okay. So when I reflected, I looked at how last week ran, and I only had a little bit of food prepped. Yeah, I think I only had a little bit of food prepped. Yesterday, I thought about it, and I did a full prep of lunches for the week. So I made I am very happy to rinse and repeat. So I'm happy to eat the same food over and over again. It doesn't bother me. So I made a big dish of just veggies and turkey mince. So I made that. I made rice in another bowl, and I did roasted pumpkin. My husband is going to have it with the rice. I find that rice is bloating me, so I'm going to have it with the pumpkin. I've made that. That should be enough to serve us the whole week. So my lunch I don't have to think about now. I've made 2 lots of breakfast. So I made overnight oats. I haven't had them in ages, so I'd kind of over had them. So I just made 2 days worth. I'll see how I go. I had it this morning. I was pretty happy with it. So I've made that, and I've made green smoothies, and I have made a rough plan of dinner for the week. So I didn't do that last week. I didn't do as much, but because how I felt last week, I've made those changes this week. Yeah, so I have this rough plan in my head of what we're going to do for dinner. So that's our foods for the week. I am trialing on the treadmill because I thought I need to get these things done, but I also want to make sure I'm moving enough during the day, especially if I have to do extra training, like train extra people. So I'm trialing this today to keep me moving. Now, because I reflected on all of those things, I'm able to make a change. And then I will review it again on the weekend and see how it went. And then I learn from that. And then I go, oh yeah, that actually made me feel really good. I'm going to carry that forward. This is why I'm saying reflecting is so important. And even if you're not, if you don't have a designated goal, I don't have a desired goal. My goal is just to feel good in my body at the moment. That is my goal. So I'm just making sure, I'm just reflecting and making sure that my life is working that way. So that's what I want you to start thinking about, is looking back and learning from the week before. So my belief is if we don't take that time to look back and reflect on your things, and we don't take the time to notice what our body is telling us or what our instincts are telling us, if we don't take the time to notice and make the change, then it's just going to come back, and it's going to come back again, and it will come back again, and then it's going to really come back again until you finally listen. So take the time to become more in tune with your body, become more in tune in what works for you, and then adjust and make it suit. Because if you don't, the lessons will just keep coming back until you finally learn it and make the change. Now, anything that I've been able to do, and I've been able to anything from where I am today with my health and fitness compared to where I was 20 years ago, is totally different. And it is not, and it's not something that changed overnight. It's through these little reflections, making these little reflections all the time, that I've been able to work out what works for me. And this is why I'm saying, it is so important for you to start reflecting and picking up on things that are working for you or things that are not working for you. The biggest thing I see is people say to me, I did this 10 years ago and it worked for me and I lost weight. But we're doing something that we think, you might have initially lost weight, but if you haven't kept the weight off, it didn't work. It didn't work for you. So why are you trying to do that same thing before when you hadn't probably spent the time to look at the process and reflect back and think, actually, it didn't work because it might have worked short term, but it didn't work long term because you put weight back on. So this is what I'm saying. Take the time to reflect back. Some people, I like it when they come back to the gym and they'll say things like, so maybe people, they'll say, oh, I used to start, and they have this all or nothing mentality. So they'll say, oh, I feel like I have to do everything or nothing at all. So then I'll say to them, let's ease you into it, because what happens when you have this all or nothing mentality, you start and you are gung-ho when you start and you're going to the gym all the time or any of those things. But then what happens? You give up because it comes too much. So that's what I'm saying. Reflect and work out little habits that you can stick to that are going to work for you long time. But without spending that time to reflect, you're not going to know. And that's why the reflection is so, so important. I'm a writer. I love to write things down. I love to get things out of my head onto a piece of paper. My husband gets really annoyed because I have pieces of paper everywhere, pieces of paper, books. I have them everywhere. I just like to write it and just to write it down and then to look back because the other thing is why this reflection is so gold for finding something long term, because anything that's short term, anything that's giving you this quick fix it's not going to work long time. And what I see with everybody is they end up putting more weight than what they were originally trying to lose because they've either been too restrictive or they're doing something that they can't stick to forever. But the thing is, when we can spend this time to reflect and really look at your lifestyle and think, does this work for me? Does this not work for me? You are going to find something where you can lose weight, make exercise something that you do for pleasure, not something that you're doing because you feel like you need to lose weight or you have to torture your body or it's punishment for something you ate. Exercise will be something that you enjoy, how you move your body. And it will be something that it won't feel like a chore. It'll just become life. And like you said, the way we eat now is totally different as to how I ate 10 or plus years ago. How I exercise now, it's totally different because when people say, well, this used to work for me, but your life is not the same as what it used to be. It's not the same. So you need to be constantly reflecting and looking back as to where you're at now and what's working for you now. So, way I was thinking just before, how did I used to exercise? So, like I said, I'm trying to not sitting down. I thought if I can walk on the treadmill while I'm doing this, then perfect. When I lived in Glasgow, I was thinking, how did I? And I used to be able to come home from work, go to the gym for an hour plus, but I don't have that time now because I have kids now. I didn't have kids then. My kids have after school activities, there's other things on. I want them in bed early, which means I want to have dinner early. That lifestyle then does not work for me now. So that's why I need to reflect and work out a lifestyle that is or a balance with exercise and food and everything else as to what works for me now. And that's what I want you to do. Just spend the time to reflect. When you do, that's when the biggest lessons come. And the biggest fear I know people have is of failure. They're scared to reflect or look back because they're scared that they will fail or any of those things. But by not reflecting is how you actually fail. But the other thing is failure is the best learning lesson out. So when we can do this and you can learn something about yourself and make an adjustment, that's how it's going to become long-term. We look at a football team. They lose the game. They might go back. They might look at plays. They might reflect and talk about. We do that with our soccer team. We'll speak on, at the training, What did you guys do? What do we need to work on from your game on Saturday? We do that every week with them. And it should be the same for you on your health and fitness journey. But what I was saying is, they lose a football match, they go back, they reflect, they look at play, they look at other things, and then they can adjust that for next week. People that win, they might just go out and celebrate. Where's the biggest learning? Biggest learning is in the loss. So this is what I'm saying for you, is the biggest learning is in realizing, is looking back at your week and making a change. And the thing is that when you get a program or you're trying to lose weight or any of those things, and you're following someone else's ideas or what someone else, they don't know what your work's like. They don't know what your stress levels are like. If you have children, how that is. They don't know what your social life's like, what you've been through in the past. There's all these factors they have no idea about, and they're just saying, just do this. But we can't just do a cookie cutter plan. And when you reflect and work something out for you that suits your lifestyle, and that is how you will stick to it forever. So please, please, please think about your health journey, or even for your whole week. Just think about that, and think about where reflecting back on your week. Spend 5 or 10 minutes on a Sunday morning. I kind of run my week Monday to Sunday. It could be different if your work structure different or you like, but choose one day a week to just spend 5 minutes to reflect back. Reflect back on your week and see what happened. You don't even have to write it down if you don't want to write it down. I find when you write it down, it's there's statistics that show the more that you write something down, you're more inclined to do it. And then then learn for it and move on the next week and do the same again. The thing is as well, is when we're reflecting, it's really important, and this is something that I'm trying to do a lot of at the moment, is to really reflect back to maybe where you started. I had a lady, people take photos because, if I ask people to take photos of themselves, not to share, just to keep for themselves, something personal to them, because you see yourself every day, you forget how much you change when you're starting to eat differently, exercise more. And it's really easy to maybe have a day where you get down on yourself and you think, oh, this is not working, or, and I had a lady one time, she had been doing PT, one-on-one PT, and she had, her legs were quite, when she first started, her legs were quite, I guess she had some cellulite on her legs. We all have cellulite. So she had that. Anyway, so she had taken these photos. Time had went on. When she first started, she could only really lift, she had injury. She only really lift half a kilo. She trained with me for a good couple of years. Then maybe 18 months down the track, she had, looked back, taken a before and after photo. So there was maybe 3 months apart in these before and afters. Now she looked at these before and afters and she was like, she felt really disappointed at herself because she felt like her body hadn't really changed that much. And I said to her, look to where you started. She'd forgotten to look all the way back to the start. So she looked back at the start and then there was a massive difference. She was only looking at that short term. So this is what I'm saying. Sometimes it's when we reflect back, we need to reflect back longer, and for you to realize that actually I am making big changes. You're changing more than what you realize. If she'd only focused on that 3-month difference, she felt disappointed. She had no reason to be disappointed. She'd done amazing. But when she looked back at her original photos, her legs, her muscle tone, her, the weight that she could lift, the activity that she could do was like day and night. And it's really easy to forget that. So that's why it's important to reflect back and to think how much, where have I come? Where have I come from? I get new mums, they starting with classes. They, when they first started, they were struggling to fit in, or, and now they're coming, 4 or 5 times a week. They couldn't do that before. It's just really important to look back. You get mums that start off and they can't squat, and now they're doing, they're doing 100 odd squats and they're able to lift heavier weights and all of that. So it's always reflect back, because we also don't want to only place all of our value and results on one thing, which is the scale. The scale is one thing, and we don't want to do that. We want to look, it is a factor, but you also want to look at everything else. And when you do this, when you look at all the facts, when you reflect back, it's going to stop you from giving up. Because the biggest thing why people don't get the results they want to get is because they give up. But they give up too early. They're actually achieving it. They're actually there. They just have this unrealistic expectation of that they should get there sooner. They should already be there now. But they forgot to look back to where they started. Maybe they're already halfway there. Maybe they're 3/4 of the way there. And they feel they're not there quick enough, or, they haven't quite done it perfect. So then they stop, they quit, and they change to something else. And if you just spend each week reflecting back and chipping away at your goals, making it work for your lifestyle, chipping away, that's how you will get the long-term results. And you will be able to lead the life that you want to lead without restriction, without feeling like you're missing out, or without having to exercise crazy, over exercise. It'll just be a nice balance. Please, please, please spend your time and reflect this week. What do you want to do? What's your goal? Where do you want to be? Think about that first. Number 2, what has worked well for you in the past? What things have you done in the past? What has worked well for you? Number 3, what hasn't worked well for you? So I want you to think about what things has not worked well for you. And if you are listing something down that does not work well for you, don't do it again. Don't do it again. Stop. What worked well for you? What didn't work well for you? And what steps are you going to take this week to achieving your goal? So I want you to write those things out. Write them out and then follow your plan, get to next week, and then reflect on it again. What didn't work well? And then think about how can you adjust it? How can you adjust it to suit? Don't see it as a failure, because you're going to have something on there that doesn't work for you, because that's life. But you adjust, then you'll find something else. And then, life, we also don't get a formula and then it works for us forever. We have to always be adjusting because our life changes. Kids get older, kids get sick. We always have to be adjusting. And that's why it's really important to always reflect. Please do the task, fill out the questions, and if you get the chance to, let me know how you go, because I'd really, really love to hear. All right, speak to you all soon.
Thanks for listening to the Elliot's PT podcast. I hope you have been able to find this information of use to you. If you know someone who might enjoy this podcast, please share it with them and ensure that you subscribe so you can be the first to know when new podcasts are released. If you have the time to leave a 5-star review, that would be amazing and it would be greatly appreciated. If you do so, please screenshot and share onto any of our socials and tag us. Then email the screenshot to hello@elliotspt.com and we will send you a free gift to your inbox. Thanks so much. Have an amazing day. Speak soon.